Hello everyone and welcome to my How to Get Project Updates tutorial. My channel is Accessible Agile and here I'm going to help teach you effective and simple ways in which you can go about your workshops or meetings. Right, so today the first thing I'm going to do is talk about what this workshop in particular is about, who it's for. I'm going to talk a bit about accessibility. And then I'm going to head on over to an example and send you the template. Right, so the first thing. Who is this board for? Now, I've worked with teams in the past where almost every team member was working on their own projects and had to give updates on it to the manager and the rest of the team every week or so. So this was meant to be a very short meeting in which the manager and the people in the team could sort of check in on each other, feel free to ask questions and see how the progress is going. Now I didn't use this in a Scrum team, I just used it in a team outside of that sort of stuff. So I would say this is perfectly applicable to most teams in various companies talking about various things. It's great because you can sort of move it, twist it, change it, do whatever you like with it. It's your dough, make your pizza, make it suit your team. But it's very easy to do. It's good over long periods of time and it's highly effective. I'll go into the examples a bit later on. Now, accessibility, I've mentioned this before in my workshops, it's part of my channel name because I aim to be as inclusive as possible. I never want one team member to feel like they are not able to do one of the workshops. That's one key voice we can't hear or whose views we won't be able to understand because they won't be able to understand the workshop if it's not accessible to them. So as I've started this fairly recently, I'm still improving on that process, but what I have done is I've put things in place for people who have varied vision and colour blindness, and I'm completely open to more ideas in which I can make this workshop more accessible. So I have my website up here which has a contact form and I can edit it based on what people say. So for colour blindness I've put colour tags on each of the poster notes that you can use for this workshop so that you know which colour it is and the other people in your team know which colour it is, because I tend to use a traffic light system, which is great, but if you can't see the colours it's not so great, and I want to make it fair for all. I've also put image tags. Now I haven't been able to embed this in code in any way, not really sure how to do that with this application or if it's possible, so I've done what I can. I've put image and then a colon there and then a quick description of what that image is underneath each of the relevant images which people need to understand as part of the example concepts. And also I've put how many image tags there are on the top right hand corner of each of the three large boards so that people don't feel like they're missing out on any photos they haven't seen. Right. So that's the accessibility done. I'm now going to talk a little bit about the duration of this and then head on over to the example. So the time really does vary with this workshop depending on how many people you have, how many post-it notes they put, and whether or not you've done it before. So with the previous team I've done something very similar with this. There are about 7 people and altogether it took about 30 minutes. The check-ins as such are very quick, and if you do want to have a longer conversation with someone, you can take that outside of the meeting. Right, so here's an example. I'm going to go through with you those key post-it notes that we use to outline what's going on within your project each week. So up here we've got the white post-it note. Now this is a 1 to 10 sort of measurement on how ready the person feels about their project. You don't read too much into this, it is purely how the person feels they are at. So 0 meaning the project has not started, 10 meaning the project's been completed. So for example, if I put a 5, I feel like I'm midway between the project getting completed. This is purely an estimate for the person to write. Positives. So I'll put that in green. If there are any achievements they have acquired since the last project update. So let's say I am creating a basketball pitch, and last week I said, oh, the basketball pitch has not been painted, I haven't really put the lines on, but then this week I have, then that's an achievement. That's made the progression of my project a lot further. So it's just examples like that. They could put one or more of those. Likewise with the other post-it notes. Issues, so if there were any issues they've come across since the last meeting that sort of disrupted their project, but maybe are not high risk or a blocker. Going on to that, so we've got risks in orange. If there are any risks to the project that they want to mention that may impact it in any way, but are not definite blockers. And then finally we've got blockers in red. So is there anything stopping them from working on something in their project? So this is something that's definitely blocking them in the way of progressing. So it just highlights the major key issues that managers do want to find out from their team members when other people are handling projects. Right, so here I have an example. So at the start of the meeting, we've got Mason here in charge of creating that basketball court. And then we've got Jessica, who's in charge of creating the golfing area. We've got Ash, who's in charge of creating the gym. We've got Hannah here, who's in charge of creating the surfing pool. And then we've got Malik, who's in charge of facilitating the rowing academy at the lake. So in this example, we have the manager down here who wants to create a large sports centre which includes all these sports, and all these people need to update the manager on how their project's going, very briefly, compared to the previous week. I'll go through the steps and then we'll talk about what's happened at the end of the meeting. So we've got all these people here now. I've waited a few minutes for them to join the meeting. If they've done it before, I might say, you know what, go ahead, write your post-it notes whilst we're waiting for other people. Or you can tell them, right, do it in advance before we start the meeting. So when you send out the meeting invite, you can say, could you please complete this a day before? And it should look like something like this. I wouldn't recommend it for the first time you do it because it would be good to understand and explain the concept to them. But people get it after a while quite quickly and they'll be able to fill it out in their own time. This is great if you can't get everyone together for long enough periods of time. Next, if people haven't written anything, I'd say, okay, I'll give you 10 minutes to do that. And once they're done, can they please drag the green tick above their names? So on the template, there'll be some green ticks where they can do that. That just means that we can eliminate any waste of time. We know when people are done, and you're not always asking that question, are we done yet? How many more minutes do you need? So it's good for that. And once they've done that, once everyone's written everything, you can go on to step 3. Now, this is where the manager, or if you have a separate facilitator, can ask the people about their projects one by one. For example, let's say I'm the manager. I'm going to say, Mason, I see that you've written down all your post-it notes. Could you please explain them? And then Mason goes through all of them. He says, I think I'm about a 3 on readiness. The positives are that We purchased all the basketballs and we painted half the court this week. The issues we came across is a duck waddled in and messed up the paint. Should have done that near the lake, maybe. The risks, lack of financials to repaint. So the paint's expensive. We don't have the right people available anymore, and that's going to potentially put a risk to our project if we can't find them. But we're okay for now. The blockers are that we're having to delay the possibility of painting the rest of the court until the paint dries, so we can add that acetone or paint remover to get rid of those duck footsteps across the court. And then the manager will say, okay, that's great, does anybody have any questions about that? Or you, the manager, would say, oh, I really like that positive that you wrote down. Is there anything I can do? Blah, blah, blah. And that conversation would just be a few more minutes. However, if there was something a bit more serious, imagine if this blocker was super serious, the manager might say, all right, Mason, can we please catch up after this meeting to see how I can help you? So that just eliminates too much time during this meeting and wasting everyone else's time. And then after that, you go on to Jessica, Ash, Hannah, Malik. You do the same thing. And then right at the end, you say, does anybody else have any further questions? Because you never know, somebody might suddenly think of something they wanted to say, or say a nice comment, or how they can help somebody else within the team. And then you end the call right there. Don't leave it too long. When you're done with the conversation, I'm definitely an advocate of just ending it. If you've got any further questions, you can always reach out to them. Right, and that's basically it. It's very good to mention accessibility features. So if you've used a few of my boards before, they might already know how it works, but it's good to talk about them. And I've put the template over here, so all you need to do is copy and paste it. And tell your team members to add their names, their project names onto it, to use these post-it notes, and to talk through them at least the first time what these mean. It's good to keep them handy even if they have done it before and you've talked to them, as it's a good reference guide. I mean, I don't know what I had for breakfast, let alone last week, so it's a good reminder for them to understand what they're going to have to write down to make the post-it notes relevant. And that's it. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to me. If you've got any other questions, head on over to my contact page. I'll leave the comment section open, and I'll put a direct link here and publish this on the Miroverse. So I hope everyone has a lovely day, and be careful of ducks, because they might waddle onto your sports pitch. You never know. See you, everyone. Bye.